to Stamp with Teah. I am Teah Woodward, an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and I'm located in Vancouver, Washington in the United States. And I am excited to be here today. This particular YouTube Live is in place of the one that I was supposed to do on Thursday. Randomly on Thursday, I lost my voice and developed quite a headache. So I ended up having to postpone and am doing this today instead. So I feel a lot better and I'm really glad to be here. I don't think you would have had me at my best, let alone that you wouldn't have been able to hear me at all. I completely lost my voice. But as you can see, I've got it back and I'm glad to be here. I'm going to do one quick check and make sure that everything is live as it should be on my YouTube channel. I think so, pretty sure. And yes, it's working. So let's see. I have a couple of really fun cards to make tonight. So I don't want to spend too much time going over all the stuff that everybody already knows about, but just in case you're that one person that's been away on the French Riviera having a fabulous, fabulous vacation and you have no idea that Sale-A-Bration is taking place, let me tell you really quick about it. Sale-A-Bration is a celebration that Stampin' Up does that I tongue-tied myself really quick. We have, so for every purchase that you make in increments of $50, there's a bunch of freebies that you can get, and you get to pick what those are. So there, I don't have all of them in front of me, but I have some of them in front of me. Two of them I'm actually demonstrating tonight. The Timber 3D embossing folder. I'm going to show you a really fun, hi Julie. Oh, thank you. That's really sweet of you. I appreciate that. Okay. So the Timber 3D embossing folder and the Aspen tree dies. So you're going to get to see both. There are some other things. So this is available for free with a $50 purchase, and I can't wait to show you a fun tip with that. Then there is the Aspen tree dies, which you're going to love. I'm just saying, are free with a $100 purchase. Then there's a couple other embossing folders. There's a gingham embossing folder, the seashells embossing folder. There's some brushed metallic cardstock, foil cardstock, and some silver foil cardstock. Those are each with $50 purchases. There's some gift boxes. There's the daffodil dies. So if you've ever seen me make the daffodils and you've seen my 3D bouquet and all of that, yep, these are the dies. Then there's Flowers of Home dies. I haven't used those, but I have to say I've seen some really pretty things made with this, and so I'm kind of thinking I want to do it. And then the Dots and Spots die, and it's really cool. I have it behind me. I don't want to take up your time for me to go and dig it out, so I'm not going to. And then there's some designer series papers. There's some stamp sets. There are, trying to think if there's any dies. Yeah, the hippo dies. The hippo dies are still available. So there's a whole bunch of stuff for you to pick from. So this is a really good time. But the important thing for you to know is that this is only through August 31st. That's it. After that, it's gone. So if you want some freebies, this is the time to jump online, make a purchase, and there will be some prompts at the end, and it'll actually show you what's available, and then you pick from there. Okay? So that was point number one. And point number two, I'm only going to hold it up. I'm not going to show you all of the little bits and pieces. Oh, goodness gracious. the joining special. So if you join Stampin' Up, not only do you get a 20% discount on your purchases, you would get to be a part of my team. My team is the Paper Blessings. We have team meetings, we have some color challenges, we have some stamping challenges, all in fun. Nobody is required to be a business demonstrator if they don't want to be. Matter of fact, majority of the people, hi Holly, majority of the people join just for the discount, and that discount is 20%. So if you join, what you get in the joining special is you get $125 worth of product. You pick what you want. You get that for $99. You get free shipping on that order. You get a free paper pumpkin. If you don't know what paper pumpkin is, it's a kit that usually has somewhere between 8 and 12 cards in it, or craft project. So you would receive one of those, and then through the end of August, there's this. All of this is also included. So there's this beautiful planner. There's you get to totally customize how you put it together. There's some little notebooks that you can put in there. There's 4 pages of stickers. There's some dividers for months. There is a stamp set and this beautiful binder. So I'm just going to set this aside. So if you join to get the discount, etc., you're going to get all of that as well. Okay. Oh my goodness. And with that, let's get on to some more fun stuff. Okay, so I am going to be demonstrating from the Kindest Gnomes. Let's see if I can, let's see. The light, okay, you're only gonna see it when I turn the camera down. It's a stamp set and dies. One of the cards I pretty well stuck to this bundle. The second card, I wanted to show you some of the flexibility that you have with some of the elements that are in this bundle. Then I also have 3 cards that were made. So I belong to several teams, and one of the things that we do sometimes, because I choose to, no, it's not a requirement, is I become involved with swaps. And one of the beautiful things about becoming involved with swaps is that it gives me some additional samples to show you of some of the things that I am demonstrating, or some things that I didn't buy to demonstrate, but I can show you because somebody else made it. So I have 3 that were in one of the last swaps that I participated in. So this one, okay, this will make more sense when I turn the camera down and I show you the designer series paper that coordinates with. But because I didn't use the designer, excuse me, I didn't use the designer series paper in my cards. Excuse me. But 2 of these cards did. Doggone it. Darn it. I have 2 fans going. It became very warm in here in the last hour and a half. So there is this little, let's see, that light, there we go. Now you can see it. How cute is that? See our little female gnome right there? And I'm going to show you where this paper came from. I'm going to show you where she came from. This card was made by Pam Steckman. And then here's another one where they cut out the designer series paper to create the little scene. And this card was made by Anne Margaret Pons. And this one, I don't know who made it, but it's really, it's a fun fold, and it's really kind of novel. So there it is. And then this opens up, and then this is a pocket, and this pulls out. So your message would pull out. And of course, doing it backwards, I can't put it in right. But so those are 3 of the samples that I had to show you. I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera down and show you the designer series the designer series paper that I didn't use. Darn it, if I lose my voice, I'm gonna get so frustrated. It was a little iffy yesterday, and anyway, I'm gonna try. So I'm gonna grab the designer series paper that goes with this suite and turn the camera down. Here we go. And there we go. And let's see how straight I am. Straight enough. Okay, so one of the things that so here's my name and my, here's my host code for the month and where you can find my Stampin' Up! Website. One of the things that I've mentioned many, many times, I'm going to adjust this light just a little bit, see if that gives you a better view, is that you can see all of the designer series papers much, much better if you go online, go to stampinup.com and look up the designer series paper by name. Let's see, and do I know the name of this one? I do. Storybook Gnomes is the name of this designer series paper. And when you do that, you can actually click through and see the prints up close, you know, see nice detail. So anyway, I'm just gonna flip through these really quick. Like I said, I didn't use these, but you can see, for instance, there's the mushroom that was used on this card here. So, Storybook Gnomes. I have a couple fun stories about gnomes. My mother adores gnomes. Oops, there's some mushrooms. And I was not a fan of gnomes until I had a very specific situation take place. And I will tell you that story. You can see I cut something out. I was starting to play with something and I changed my mind. Whoops. See a little winter scene. Some snowflakes. I think I already showed you that one. Showed you that one. I like this snowflake. It's really pretty. And then I've shown you all of that. Okay, so that is where, so here is where these gnomes came from, is from this paper. And the dies that are in this bundle, we'll cut these out. Let's see if I can find, like for instance, can you see that? This die, not only does it cut out the stamped image that is in here, right here, but it also, there's 4 of them, cuts out the images from your designer series paper. So that's a fun thing to know about your DSP. DSP being designer series paper. All right. Now, since I'm not using this, I'm moving it aside. I just wanted you to be aware of it. Oh, and this is the one thing out of this collection that I'm showing you tonight. This is on low inventory as of this morning, or as of this afternoon, I guess. It was early afternoon when I checked. All right, so you ready for this? This is the first card that we're going to make. So, let me tell you a little bit about this stamp set. So this stamp set is red rubber. And then, so there are 9 stamps. There's 4 sentiments and then 5 images. And then I forgot to verify how many dies there were, but there are dies to cut out all of these images. And I pointed out that they also cut out some of the designer series paper. And then there's some additional pieces on here to create a gnome without a stamped image. And then there's some grassy pieces, there's some pieces for some additional mushrooms. So and you will get to see almost everything on here I used today. All right, so we are going to, so I have pre-die cut everything. So we're going to start with a card base that's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I'm going to just go ahead and burnish that right now. I'm going to fold that on the score line and give that a nice sharp crease and set that aside. Now I told you that I was going to show you a fun technique using this, yes, the timber, calling it the right thing? Yes, the Timber 3D embossing folder. So you see where it says Stampin' Up right here? This is the front. This is the back. This is the front. I am going to, so first I'm going to bring this up close. Do you see that wood grain back here? Well, I'm going to show you how I made that. I am going to, a little bit of disclosure ahead of time. So this one, I printed soft suede on soft suede. I was in a hurry and accidentally did early espresso on soft suede here. I'm just going to go ahead and stick with it. So it's going to end up looking a little bit different and a little bit richer. But that was an accident and I'm just going to go with it. So in order for you to be able to see what I'm doing, I am going to move this. So again, remember where it says Stampin' Up? This is the front of the plate. On the front, you're going to take your ink pad and just apply your ink. Just straight, just like that. And then you're going to put your piece of cardstock in and run that through the embossing folder. And that is how I got this wood grain effect. So I'm going to wash this off later and just set this aside. So we set this safely somewhere else, right up there. Okay. So this is going to be the bottom of our card front. This will be the mat for our card front. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere those to each other now. I'm going to use multi-purpose adhesive. So the story on the gnomes. So my mom loves them. Loves them. Like, loves them. They're inside her house, they're outside her house. She loves them. They make her happy. And for that reason, you know, I have tolerated them, but I've been kind of noisy about barely tolerating them. Well, I was in Herzogenaurach, Germany, in downtown, November of 2019, and I'm going to cough. Excuse me. And I was over there for work. And it was the end of the workday. A coworker and I were going to go to dinner. And the downtown section of Herzogenaurach is, so I'm just going to flip this over and give this a nice press, is cobblestone and very Bavarian architecture and decorations everywhere. And it was very cooled and crisp out, but dry. And we were walking down this cobblestone street heading towards our restaurant, and the bell tower, which was right in front of us, started pealing. So the bells started ringing, which was beautiful. All right, I'm going to set this aside over here. I'm going to pull out, and I've got a couple images I'm going to need to color. And I've got a ton of pens here. So as we were walking down this street and the bell tower was doing its thing, I'm gonna say was ringing its magic, we came across a little store that had Christmas decorations in the window, and there were gnomes. And I knew instantly I needed to buy some for my mother. So in I went, and for some reason, at that moment, I kind of became infatuated with gnomes. So I am going to set my color lifter aside. I'm not going to need that for a little while. And I just realized my computer is dinging, so let's mute that really quick. Sorry about that. And it is now muted. All right, so I am going to start with ivory to color the stem of the, oh, you know what? I bet that I've just realized something that would have made my experience better on the original card. I'm actually going to start with the red in that little area. So anyway, that's when I fell in love. Not fell in love, well, okay. At that moment, I did kind of fall in love with the kind of a magical experience. It was really, really, really cool. I'm going to use, since I've got this out, I'm going to go ahead and use the bullet tip to add my darker areas. And my mom loved them, and I will never collect them. I know that for a fact. I do have a few. Most of them were given to me. I don't have a burning desire to go out and buy any, but I have a respect for the people that do love them. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to go ahead and, so normally I did this out of order. Normally I start with my lighter color, and then I go in and I put my dark on, and then I blend it out with my lighter. So I went about this a little bit opposite of what I normally do, and hopefully I still end up with decent results. But God bless it, my mother loves, loves, loves her gnomes. And I will never forget that very beautiful moment. Walking down the street with that bell tower going. All right. I ended up doing this different because I got excited about the thought process. So. Now I'm going to go in with my lighter Poppy Parade blender pen, and I'm going to go right over that darker red, as well as filling in. So what happened, these are alcohol markers, and there's less pigment in the lighter and more pigment in the darker, and a little bit more alcohol in the lighter. And so it allows for you to go in and actually create this really beautiful blending point between the dark and the light. And again, I usually put in my light first and then put my dark on, and then go back over it with my light to blend. Okay, so I used Poppy Parade, and now I'm going to use Ivory. Let me double check something here. It was a couple of days ago that I made these, so I just want to double check my, I'm going to do a little color check. Okay, yep. I'm going to come in with the bullet tip, and I'm going to try to not butt up to that red, because it will kind of want to bleed into the color that I'm laying down, so I'm kind of staying backed away from that line. And my mom has gnomes for just about every holiday. And everybody has a different idea of what a gnome is too, right? So I never really thought about, I just thought they were a pain in the biscuits when every time I had to move them and I was cleaning my mom's gutters. That was my thoughts on gnomes until I went in and actually bought some. Now I've made my mom a shirt, and I've bought her a few different things that have gnomes on them. I designed a shirt in Cricut using my Cricut that she loved last year. Anyway, everybody has a different idea of what a gnome is, right? And in my mind, they are a jovial, a happy little mythical character. I'm going in with dark petal pink, and I'm going to add some shading. That's my idea of what a gnome is this happy little, like I said, mythical character. What is your gnome? What do you think a gnome is? I think of them as making merry. I think of them as, let's see, I guess I should look and make sure I'm actually in the camera. Yep, I am. So I'm going to lift this up so that you can see. I started off with ivory, and I went in and I added some shadowing from using the dark petal pink. All right, next I'm going to use crumb cake on my door. So there's dark, there's light. So this time I'm actually going to do what I told you I normally do, and I'm going to apply my light first. And I promise this door will look better once I add my dark. I'm going to go ahead and use my brush. Now my mom, her gnomes, she's got them for every season of the year. Matter of fact, she's got some out in her yard that have the month on them. And that makes her happy. Pulling my hair back, it's now getting way warm in here, even with the fans going. Now I'm using my dark crumb cake, and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to add a little shadow on the inside of that door frame. And I'm going to add a little shadow on each side of the brace that's on the door. And then right by the ground. And you know what? I think I want this door frame to be darker. Oh yeah, I like that better. Like I said, it was a couple days ago that I colored these, so. Okay, so you'll see those dark lines where I added those shadows? I'm gonna go in now and I'm going to use my light crumb cake, and I'm gonna start where the dark is and blend up. And then blend down and blend up and blend down. I will bring this back up for you to see. Oops. Dropped my cap. All right. Can you see how I've kind of eased some of that? I'm going to go ahead and use the bullet tip from my dark crumb cake and just darken around that door handle, at least on one side. Maybe all the way around. All right. Oh, and I want to do the frame around this window. And then I am going to use light balmy blue, the bullet tip, to color in those pieces of glass, or whatever they would be. All right. You know, I think I could make that shading inside that mushroom just a little bit. Did I call that a pumpkin earlier? I don't know why that just dawned on me that I might have called that the wrong thing. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to add a little bit more. Almost done with the mushroom. Just blending out that shadow that I had put around that door. There we go. All right. It is a better looking mushroom than the first one I did. I won't point out all of the mistakes that are on that one, but you'll have to trust me, there's some mistakes. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to our cute little gnome here. Isn't he adorable? Okay, I'm going to use Cajun Craze, Old Olive, Soft Suede on his shoes, then probably Petal Pink on his nose. I'm going to use, did I misplace one of my, nope, I didn't misplace it, it's right there. Here's my light Petal Pink. I'm going to use my bullet tip and color his nose. I stamped these with Early Espresso. I knew that I was going to be on this brown cardstock combination, color combination, and I made the decision to, and I just realized in his beard I'm going to use a little bit of gray. Okay, set these aside. This part takes the longest. I mean, all the coloring. After that, it all goes quick. Okay. I'm going to start with the light Cajun Craze. I am going to use the bullet tip and I'm going to outline his hat. And if anybody's commenting and if I'm not responding, please don't be offended. These show up differently on the YouTube lives than they did on my Facebook lives, and I'm not quite used to it yet. So I promise that I will go back and look at assuming I can see them. I just realized I'm not sure that I've received any before during the live. All right. I liked this kind of almost leathery look of this Cajun craze. All right. And I'm not worried about making it perfect because I want it to look a little bit beat up. I'm going to take the bullet tip from the dark Cajun craze and I'm going to come in and put some in the crease of the hat. And then I'm going to use a little dashed line for kind of outlining the hat. Anywhere where it looks like it's, you know, bending away or hidden behind a rather round nose. Yeah, I think of these guys as quite happy and jovial and maybe a little impish. And I'm taking that light Cajun craze and just trying to pick up some of that outline and just blending it towards the center. And there we go. We'll see how that looks. Then I'm going to use the light Cajun craze to color in his pants, which are in here under his beard. So his hat is darker. Then I'm going to use light old olive, the bullet tip, to come in and add some color to that shirt. Isn't he a happy guy? I mean, look at this. How could you not look at that guy and think, oh my gosh, look at how happy he is. He's so cute. Okay, I am now going to use light soft suede on his little mittens. These are so small, I'm looking and I don't think that I used any shading on this before. If I feel like I need it afterwards, I will, but. And then I'm going to use the light soft suede. Sorry, I hit the camera. I'm going to use the light soft suede. Did I just hit it again? I think I did. On his boots, and then I am going to use the dark soft suede to kind of outline especially the bottoms to make it look like they've got soles. And I could do a little dashed line where the pants are overlapping there. Come back in, almost done coloring him, I promise. I'm going to use the bullet tip just because it's such a small area of that light and kind of bleed up or blend up that from the bottom of the shoe. Okay, then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the bullet tip from light gray granite And I am just going to hit some of the beard. So just where those lines are. And just make it so his beard isn't snowy white. Just to kind of give it some depth, some interest. Now let me lift him up so that you can see. What do you think? Isn't he a cute little dude? All right, now let's put this card together. Ooh, I didn't even have to use my color lifter anywhere. That's pretty huge, considering on my sample card I had to make it a couple of times because I got too messy. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to put some dimensionals on the back of my, let's see, can you see this? Okay, I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of my mushroom. Going to use my Take Your Pick tool to remove the papers. Come on, there we go. All right. And then I am going to mount, ooh, I almost got ahead of myself. Goodness, let me set that aside. So I have already die cut all of these little pieces of grass and mushrooms, and how do I want to do this? Well, I'm just going to have to do it retrofit. So I'm going to mount my mushroom on a piece of vellum cardstock that I die cut using one of the largest layering circle dies. This set comes with also a matching set that is scalloped. I didn't use any of the scallops, I just used the largest flat ringed die. Okay, so now I need to put some grass on here. So I'm going to start by using, okay, I'm going to use some mini glue dots. Going to that right there. And I'm going to place this one so that it kind of butts up to that front door just a little bit. Okay. Like that. And then I am going to take another one and I'm going to actually flip it around like this. And I'm going to adhere it not on the mushroom, but behind the mushroom, kind of dimensionally back. And as you can see, ooh, that was not cool. Let's try that again. There we go. That's more like it. All right. So this one, I just want it to look like the mushroom is sitting in between the blades of grass. And I just remembered that I used, see, I colored the base underneath the door here when I left it white, it looked funny, so I want to be sure that I go in and do that. I'm going to grab my dark crumb cake, because remember that's the color that I used on the door, and I'm just going to color underneath that door. And it's just going to help it blend into the background of the card a little bit better. All right, move those aside again. Put this back. All right, next. I have one blade of grass that's in front of him and then another that will be adhered back behind. So I'm going to start with the one that's in front. Again with the mini glue dot. I'm going to be more careful this time. And then I just realized I actually need a small dimensional, because he's going to be on dimensionals. There we go. And speaking of which, I should just go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to double check. Oh, that's right. I used, so it's a single layer here, but it's a double layer down below. And that's because my mushroom has a single layer of dimensionals, and his hat is going to overlay on that single layer. So he only needs one dimensional here, but he's going to need two dimensionals here. Did that make sense? I hope that made sense. All right, so that part is ready there. Then, so that must mean I need two dimensionals here as well. It does mean that. Okay. There we go. So now, I have a mini glue dot behind that little piece of grass, and I'm just going to see how I'm interlocking those together like this. I want it to look like he's kind of coming through the grass. You like that? I do. All right, next. I say I'll write a lot, I know. I need a sponge dauber. I didn't mean to put this one away. I had it out earlier and I put it away without thinking. And I'm just going to use the tone on tone to add some color to the edge of the mushroom. And it doesn't need to be perfect. But what that does is it just kind of gives it a little bit of lift and dimension. So there's that one. One more. How cool is this, right? All these cool dies that were in this set. And wait till you see the next card. Holy man. All right. So I want to show you how I created the stems for the mushrooms. I didn't like any of my paper colors. I could have, but I didn't. So I actually went in and used that ivory that was that I used for the base of my mushroom. It's actually what I used on here. And what I did, oh, let's see, did I throw that away? Let me see if I can locate it easily. I can. So I used my blending Stampin' Blends, colored the paper, and then I went in and I cut it out with the dies. So that's how I got this color. And I'm actually doing the same thing with the sentiment. Okay, mini glue dot on the back of the mushroom. Just gonna put that right in the center. Turn that over and do it on this one as well. Now, there's one mushroom. Two mushroom. Let's see, I need to remember how I did this. Oh, that's right. Let's see. I used a whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on there, cowboy. So I'm going to put a mini glue dot on the base of the small mushroom. I am going to put it behind the taller mushroom, but pull the head of the mushroom in front. So can you see that? It's kind of crisscrossy. Then, this is where it gets fun, everybody, because like I said earlier, I made these a couple days ago when I was gonna demonstrate them on Thursday. All right, so there is our little mushrooms behind a clump of grass. And then I didn't think one clump of grass was actually quite adequate, so I'm gonna stick another clump of grass in here, kind of like that. That's a lot of mini glue dots, huh? Oh, I'm getting a little bit bumbly here. There we go. There, and then our sentiment is going to be kind of setting on top of that. We are now ready to start assembling our card. So I already showed you how to make this wood grain. Then I mounted it on our matte color. So this is Cajun Craze. Here I used Early Espresso ink on my Timber 3D embossing folder. And that piece of paper was soft suede. So it's Early Espresso on soft suede. Okay? Now, I am going to put some mini glue dots on the back of my vellum. I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool to apply those. And I'm just going to make sure, come on, that they land behind that mushroom. And I'm just going to put a couple more down here, and okay, I need to tear this off. Whew. All right, now this is ready to be placed. Oh, about like such. I just want to make sure my mushroom is fairly straight. There we go. And I just realized I forgot to put my stacked dimensionals behind that piece of grass, so I'm going to do that really quickly. I am going to stack them here. And then I'm probably going to have to be just a little bit aggressive in order to get those in there. There. Ooh, it can be seen. I don't like that. That needs to change. Okay. There we go. Whew. More better. Way more better. All right. Now I'm going to place, oh, did I miss cutting out one of my pieces of grass? I sure did. Well, I think I need it, so I am going to grab let's see if I've got a scrap here, and I'm just going to step, I've got my cut and emboss machine off to one side, and let me make sure that I'm cutting, yep. So, see my scrap? I can get what I need right there. All right, and here I am. I've got what I want. Whew, so glad that I had a scrap nearby and that I didn't have to go digging for it. And I almost put that cut and emboss machine away before I went live. Okay, I'm going to just kind of cut. I don't need the whole thing. I only need those two long blades of grass. And I'm going to do something about like that. Okay, so I am ready to adhere him down. Using the dimensionals. Remember, I have one layer of dimensionals behind his head because his head is going to be where there's already another set of dimensionals, but then they're double stacked down here. And just about like that. See, it keeps him nice and flat. Then I'm going to add, heck, I'm just going to go with the mini glue dot. There we go. And then we are going to put these mushrooms right up here. So I need to put some dimensionals behind them. And I need to double stack. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and then I am going to add 2 here. And then before I peel those, ooh, look, see, I can actually see that dimensional. From here it didn't look like it, but there we go. Yeah. I'm going to take off those backers. And apply that like such. This card is almost done, my friends, and the other card doesn't take nearly as long as this one. I'm not doing any coloring on it. It's all die cut. Well, I'm doing a little, yeah, it's not coloring. It's not with blender pens. Okay, so now I need to stamp and cut out a sentiment. So I'm going to get out my, I want to use the crumb cake, but I want to use the light crumb cake. And I'm going to color a big area, but I'm going to be cutting this down. And I fussy cut the first one. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to cut probably a rectangle. So let that alcohol ink dry. I am going to stamp my sentiment, which is "You Gnome Me So Well," using, let's see, I've covered up my ink somewhere. There it is. Okay, I just don't work well in a messy area, so I've got to do just a little bit of cleanup here. Everybody has their thing, right? That is mine. Okay, with any luck, I'm going to get this straight. I would say that's pretty straight. And I am going to cut and cut. Oh, my cut's not straight. Well, that's crummy. Let's see. All right, we're going to go with that. And ooh, that's really much bigger than I wanted. Oh, goodness. I really didn't want to cut this down. I'm not going to do a full-on fussy cut. But I am going to take it down a little bit. Darn it. What's funny is you all know I like to fussy cut. Just I remember that when I did this the other day, I really had a hard time holding on to this little dinky piece. And that's why I had decided not to do it today. All right. That's what we're going to go with. I am going to adhere that with adhesive. Not a mini glue dot, you say? Nope, not a mini glue dot. So I'm going to put that there. And gosh, I think I'm going to end up having to put some dimensionals underneath that. Probably do a little strip. Or not. Here's a partial from the previous project. And there's another partial I can stack on it. Okay. Or a whole. All right. That should do it. There. Okay. I am going to go ahead and mount it on the card base, and I'm going to use liquid or multi-purpose adhesive. Then I'm going to center this like such. So you'll notice my perimeters are really super tight, right? The card base, when folded, measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. The Cajun Craze measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then this embossed layer is 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, we need to throw just a couple more details on here. We have some gems. I'm going to use the rustic metallic adhesive backed dots, and I'm going to use the large ones because I've used some stacked dimensionals. Excuse me. And so I'm going to stick one down here. Okay, come on. That's not exactly where I meant to put it, but okay, now it's just being fussy. Or am I being fussy? Maybe it's me being fussy. All right. I'm going to put one kind of in that crook right there between. What is going on? Oh. So with the Take Your Pick tool, hold on, I got a back stuck to my finger. That's not going to bode well. There we go. So with the Take Your Pick tool, there's a clay end and there's a pointy tip. With the clay end, you can pick up your gems and place them where you want, which is my favorite way to do it. All right, the last thing to add to this card front, and I will stamp a mushroom on the inside, but that's simple. Get these gems out of the way. Is to tie this little dinky bow. See this little bow? Don't want a big bow when you're talking about gnomes, right? Let's see, hopefully I didn't cut this piece too small. I'm a woman of size, shall we say. I spent my youth being over 6 feet tall, and I have hands to match that. Oh, yay, Nicole, I'm so glad. All right, so I've got my little bow tied, and I'm going to don't feel like I got my ends quite. There we go. Now they should be even. Now I'm just going to trim my tails. And I am going to use a dot of glue to adhere this because this bow is so little. I don't want a mini glue dot to show. So I'm going to put that bow right there. And then while that is drying, I will probably trim that tail a little bit more. While that is drying, I am going to stamp my message liner for the inside. And to be honest, my sample card didn't have a message liner. So, oh, look at that. I don't have a mushroom for the inside. Huh. What do I want to put on the inside? Well, I mean, well, if any of you know me, you know that I don't do, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do a black and white version of, oh, how about our little sit-down dude? Our little sit-down guy right here. That could be cute on the inside, just in espresso, not colored in. I need a stamp or a block. I haven't used this one yet, so I'm going to run it on a sponge real quick and make sure that it's ready to take my ink. And there. I think that is sufficient. I will adhere that with multi-purpose adhesive to the inside. I cleaned off my stamp already and I'm putting it back in the case. And I'm going to clean off my sentiment. Now everything that belongs in the stamp case has been put back. Oops, that's the sample card. Oh yeah, that's quite a bit too long. There. Now that bow looks good. Just going to adhere that to the inside. How cute is he? Right? Sometimes you don't need to do too much. Now, if I had used that designer series paper on the outside of the card, that would have been a natural to just put a strip of that on the inside of the card. But the outside of my card didn't match anything from the designer series paper, other than it had gnomes. And there we are, my friends. That is card number 1. I cannot wait to show you card number 2. Ooh, it looks like I could have blended that. Okay, I can be a little bit of a pill sometimes. All right. I am going to close this ink up. And I am looking for, I had a whole stack. Oh, it's in there. Okay. So are you ready to see card number 2? I hope so. Let's set this aside and set this aside. Here is card number 2. How much fun is that? So, as I mentioned here, this 3D timber embossing folder, that's one of the items that you can get for free with a $50 purchase. This die here, the aspen tree dies, that you can get for free with a $50 purchase. Or, excuse me, a $100 purchase. All right, setting all of this to one side. So what is cool about this? The only thing that is stamped on here is the sentiment and the inside of the card. That is it. Everything else is die cut. Now, I have used sponge daubers to apply some ink. You see his nose? I've applied, can you see that? Oh, just a little bit of color around his nose, a little bit of color around his beard. I've enhanced his shoes. Can't wait to show you all of this. Everything is pre-cut and ready to go, so I can just go get started right now. Now there's some layers, I'm not gonna lie. There are some layers. There's this card has a little bit of weight to it. So let me pull out those aspen tree dies real quick and show you what you get if you were to make a purchase and select those as your freebie. These are the dies that you get. So these two gorgeous leaf dies. Oh, do I still have, I had a sample card here. Hold on one second. I might have a card right here that can show you these leaves. I do. So this is a card that was made, this is part of another group that I swapped with. And you see these leaves? How beautiful are those? Those are these right here. And then here's that tree die. And this card was made by Kathy Strenge. Beautiful, isn't it? So let's see. Here is this is a branch. This cuts out the bird that comes with the coordinating stamp set that's perched in a tree. That does not come with that free with a $100 purchase, just the dies. All right, let me set these back in here. So that is what you would get. Okay. So there's a little bit of pre-planning with this particular card because I wanted, let's see, I'm missing one of my nose. Oh, there it is. Like I said, everything's pre-cut. The snowy background that you see here, this is part of the specialty vellum that's in the mini catalog, the July through December mini catalog. And I can show you, I happen to have them here. There are 6 sheets in here. If I can find the opening. So 3 of these are flocked on vellum, and the other 3 are an iridescent print on vellum. So here is one of the snowflake types. Here is that dot that made me think of snow. Here are some more snowflakes. These are different than the first ones. These are more filled in. And then here are the iridescent prints. And they're the same as the flocking, but with an iridescent print on it instead. So let me set those aside. So that's where I got this vellum from. You should see, I have a stack of stuff here that I'm hoping to remember to show you at the very end. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I needed a color to make this pop. So see, if it's white on white, you can see it, but it's not really visible. So I gave it a subtle color, and I'm applying it to, excuse me, soft succulent. So the first thing, so I made a mistake. I don't know if you'd call it a mistake. It was a learning curve. When I assembled this card, I didn't take into account how long it was going to take for my adhesive that's behind this piece, between this piece and this piece, to dry, because this is vellum, right? A little different material than working with cardstock. And so when I went to center everything, my top layer started to slide. So what I'm going to do is first thing I'm going to do is adhere these two together and then set them aside, and then I'm going to adhere these two together, and then I'm going to place this on here. Hope that made sense. So we're going to start here. I'm going to use my multi-purpose adhesive, and this is going to be a little bit bulky. And I do want to make sure, oops, oh, darn it. I do want to make sure that I put enough adhesive on here. Darn, that's the second time I've added glue to my piercing mat. I like to use my piercing mat when I'm stamping. I feel like I get a better impression. Okay, so now I've put adhesive in all the corners. Now I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive in some of these other areas. Not a lot. I want to make sure it's thin and so it doesn't squish out. I've got to make sure that some of my other elements have a secure base for me to adhere them to. So I don't need to put a ton, I just needed to put enough to hold. Now I'm going to grab that tree, which I did not apply any adhesive to, and I'm going to line up that top layer with that vellum. And I actually cut that vellum is just a skosh under the dimension of that white layer. Okay, so set that aside while that's drying. This background is going to be centered, and there's just a little 1/16 of an inch perimeter that will go all the way around. I think you're going to be impressed with how easy this card is. Let's see if I can bring in a piece of paper that maybe you can see this a little bit better. I'm going to pick this up and wiggle it. That's why I like the green glue, is it gives me room, gives me time to get everything positioned. All right. Now, when I adhere this piece to this, which I'm going to use mini glue dots for, I'm just going to center it over the soft succulent and leave that evening evergreen exposed. Okay? So just like this, but I'm going to use mini glue dots to hold it. And I'm going to apply 2 mini glue dots to each corner. It's pretty common to use mini glue dots with vellum. I used adhesive on the front of the vellum because that flocking was on there, and so I felt like I stood a pretty good chance of the adhesive adhering well. I think there's just one corner left to do, this corner. So when I measured, oh, did I end up with, Okay, what happened? What happened? I might have worked it too soon. Okay. I can't remember what I was saying now when I spotted that. I kind of munched up my, I might not have waited long enough. Okay, so I'm going to line up. Oh, I know what I was going to say. That was that when I measured everything, I measured the white cardstock on the furthest side of the line for the whatever that measurement was. I can tell you, I just need my ruler. 3 7/8. So I measured it. Oh, thank you, Julie. I measured it at the farthest side of the line, of the measuring line. But then when I measured the vellum and the piece that's behind the vellum, I measured on the other side of the line. So basically the measurements are the same, and some people would say that's just within tolerance, but that's how I came up with this. Okay, so here's our card front. Next, let's get rid of this big old tail from using all those mini glue dots. All right, so this is where we're gonna have, I'm gonna set this aside for a minute, and we're gonna have a little bit of coloring fun. So I am going to first, I cut out 2 noses because I wanted it a little bit thicker. I didn't want a single layer of nose sitting on that beard and underneath that hat. I wanted it just a skosh thicker. And then I'm adhering those 2 together, using my fingers to make sure that they line up. And I'm going to set those aside. Those are going to get colored in a minute, but I want to make sure that they're nice and adhered. So next I am going to, let's start with the beard. I have smoky slate. I'm going to use a sponge dauber. And I am going to, okay, so one of the things that I'm so glad, Julie. Yeah, you need to get this set. It's just way too much fun. Okay, I'm holding this up close so that you can see. You can see the impression from, let's see, if I back this away. I'm not sure why it's not. Okay, so you see the impression where the nose will be. And you see on each side of that, that's where the hat lines up. The bottom of the hat lines up. Okay, so you can, it kind of gives you some embossing guidelines here. Okay, I'm using my smoky slate, and I'm just going to come in and just add a little bit of dimension around the outer edge of the beard. I'm not going to try to add color to the center. And after this is on, I'll show you my sample card again. And let's see, do I think I can, I was gonna see if I wanted to try to get in there. Yeah, see, that's all right. So because I ended up with a little bit of extra ink there on the tip of that one piece of beard, I'm going to go ahead and add some more around the edges. There we go. All right, while that is drying, and so I'm just not even gonna worry about that little flub that's right there because it's gonna be up against his boots, so it might not show that much. I'm gonna set that aside, and here I'm gonna show you, can you see his beard, how I just added a little bit of color around the edges? Just kind of gives it dimensional and gives it lift. All right, we're done with that part. Whoops. Okay. And my sponge daubers just went behind the table. Oh, 1 minute, I can reach him. Whew, that was lucky. This is actually the one that I want. So his boots I cut out of Early Espresso, and I'm just going to use Early Espresso on Early Espresso. And I am just going to use a sponge dauber around the edges. And up the center of his boots. And you don't have to worry about being perfect because see, his beard covers a lot of it. All right. There we go. So there are his boots. Gonna set those to one side, let those dry. Then I think his nose should be plenty dry, so I am going to pick up Cherry Cobbler. His nose I cut out of Petal Pink, and all I'm gonna do is go around the edges. So just give it just a little bit of a winter rosy glow. All right, so I am going to attempt, yeah, see, I like how that's turning out. Just add a warm little fuzz all the way around, and I'm very happy with how that turned out. Doesn't need to be perfect on all sides. If it is, then it wouldn't look nearly as fun. Close up my Cherry Cobbler, and next for the hat. So with the hat, I'm going to take my paper snips, and I am going to fuzz up this hat. So here is where his nose will sit, right? I actually want to stretch that out just a little bit. So I'm not even opening up the paper snips, and I'm just folding. See how it's kind of folding back the edge of the paper there, kind of roughing it up. I mean, gnomes don't necessarily go to Macy's or Nordstrom's before they end up on the front of a card, right? And then I'm going to just rough up the edge all the way around. I'm not necessarily bending it like I did there where the nose is going to sit. I want it to look dimensional around that nose, right? Oh, I didn't tell you where I got this designer series paper that I'm using for his hat. I pulled this from, I'll show you in just a moment. This is one of the Christmas papers. I pulled it from the Lights Aglow 6x6 designer series paper. And there's a bunch in here that would work really, really well for any of these guys' hats. Okay. Evening Evergreen, and you guessed it, another sponge dauber. And this is going to just add, so first of all, it's going to get rid of that white edge that I just accentuated. And I'm going to add, again, you know, with that like deeper, like I did with the nose, how I added this kind of, that darker edge. I'm doing the same thing with the hat. Trying to make it look a little worn. Now, I've got some ideas for things that you could do that you may already have on hand. Like, do you have the time-worn Type 3D embossing folder? That would really give these guys a little, you know, Lord of the Rings kind of feel. Or the fern embossing folder. I can't remember if that's what it's called or not, but that's what it is it's a bunch of ferns. That would look great as a background. Or any of those woodland. So we have that new embossing folder that has the rings of wood, or what's it called? Rings of love, rings of something. That would look good behind any of these gnomes. That looks good. There's not, oh, sorry. There's not a specific recipe to coloring these things up. Okay, well, I can put this back in view. You guessed it, I'm gonna use some more, actually, you know what? I'm gonna start with adhesive. And I'm gonna put his nose right there. And I'm going to pick that up so you can see me wiggle that into place. Just like that. Look at that nose. How cute is that? Excuse me. And then I am going to use more adhesive right here across the top of his pants or top of his boots. And going to adhere him just like that. Now, his hat. I did different. Whoops. Did I just stick that down? Didn't mean to. I'm going to put dimensionals behind it. So I'm going to put a dimensional here and a dimensional here, one dimensional here, and then two dimensionals here, because I want it to kind of a little bit curl forward, not a ton, but just a little bit. So I'm going to use a small dimensional here, a small or mini dimensional there. Where are, no doubt I've set something on top of it, so I'm going to bust open a brand new pack here of my regular dimensionals, and then I'm going to put two, whoops, I like layers. I always have. Even before I started stamping and I was just making cards with my Cricut, I liked layers. So I can go ahead and put him, you know what, that's what I did wrong. Oh no, I didn't, oh darn. Sorry everybody, sorry. That's my head. I was looking underneath this card. I need to put dimensionals behind this. So sorry, I keep hitting the camera. All right, so now he is ready to be applied to the card front. Oh, about like such. And then now remember I told you there's a mark on each side of his nose for the hat. So I'm lining up there we go. There we go. All right. I am ready to adhere this. I've got more to do, not a lot, but I've got more to do to the front, but I'm gonna go ahead and adhere this to the card base. So 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. If you wanna do a fun fold with these gnomes, I was on Pinterest earlier, and there's tons and tons and tons of cute, very, very cute things that people have done using the Kindest Gnomes and using some fun folds. And I'm going to adhere this flat down. Just so many cute ideas. Okay. So let's stamp the sentiment. I'm going to stamp slightly off center on purpose. Perfect. And then I am looking for my chamois. For some reason I like to pile things on top of it. While I have my ink out, I am going to go ahead and stamp my liner for the inside of the card. That way I can put my ink away. So I have this snowflake that I pulled from, matter of fact, I should tell you where I got the sentiment from too. So the sentiment I pulled from Brightest Glow. Here it is, 'Tis the Season. There's all these beautiful Christmas sentiments. And the snowflake that I'm stamping on the inside, I've pulled from Christmas Lights, and there it is right there. And I'm using the same color on the inside for the ink that I used for the sentiment on the outside. So soft suede, or excuse me, soft succulent. All right. And I've got just a big buildup of ink on my thumbnail here. There we go, it's off now. Should be able to touch a card safely. I can close up my ink. Just go ahead and adhere those to each other. We are very close to being done with the second card. And then there at the very end, I'm just going to want to show you a couple of alternative papers. Say you don't have the embossing folders or the dies for a background. I've got a couple of other papers to show you that might be really good alternatives. And one of them is one of the Sale-A-Bration freebies. Okay, let's go ahead and adhere this to the inside. I will update my blog with all of these details. All right, one set of dimensionals across the back of my sentiment. And I just need to add a bow and some gems. Oh, I think this was sitting right about there. Whoops, a little bit high. For this bow, I'm using it is called metallic mesh ribbon. And I'm just going to squish it. See how soft it is? It's super soft. I'm gonna squish it up. And make myself a bow. Normally I use my bow maker. This is an extra wide ribbon, and I'm gonna make a very small bow. Just a little bit smaller. I think I folded that back on itself. There we go. Just make those tails just barely longer than the bow itself. There we go. Looks like one of those tails is still a little long. There we go. All right. I will now use a mini glue dot, surprise, to add that ribbon right there. This one ended up a little bit fluffier than the original one. And then I'm going to use, for my finishing touch, it's called red and green adhesive backed pearls. Here's the red. This is actually soft succulent, kind of looks blue in this light. There's silver and there's gold. I'm going to use the silver. There we go. My friends, we have finished card number 2. I hope you like it. Let me clean up just a little bit of mess here, and I will just take another minute of your time to show you a couple of alternative cards. I mean not cards, excuse me, alternative papers to use. Get some of this stuff out of the way. Okay, so here are our cards that we made tonight. Oh, here was another cute idea. So we have this stamp called Snow Crystal, and it makes this oversized snowflake. And I thought, how cute, maybe not use the big Merry Christmas, but how cute would it be to have little dinky gnome next to the big snowflake, and then have a more size appropriate sentiment. Wouldn't that be cute? So that was another idea. Okay. Well, so one of the other papers that had some prints in it that would coordinate really well with this set is the, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's called Rings of Love. And one of the papers in the set has, look at this. See the mushrooms and the greenery? How cute would that be as the background for one of these cards? Or the acorns with the leaves. Heck, even the poinsettias. Oh, here are those wood rings that I was telling you about. That would look really cute. Here is this kind of woodsy, foresty looking print. And then do you remember one of the cards that I showed you in the beginning had this print on it? That's where it came from. Rings of Love. This pack of paper, there's 2 of each print, you get for free with a $50 purchase. That's an option to get for free with a $50 purchase. You make your own selection. Okay, my friends, I thank you so much for joining me this evening. I hope that you have enjoyed the Kindest Gnomes bundle. I hope I've inspired you. And I can promise that I will update my blog. I do have a different deadline I have to achieve tonight, so the blog will probably be updated tomorrow. And thank you for joining me. My best to you all. Andy, if you're watching, happy birthday. Biggest hugs to you all. Good night.